that.
so much fun. I love it.
Well, look at that. The public is all virtual. Jackson's building.
Oh, what's it? Alana? Who's Alana?
Is it A?
Yeah.
Is that Alana Rani?
Oh, no, that's a different one. We don't know what she
Elon. I did know. And
I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
I'd like it sometimes they put their last name in.
Yeah, I usually just put my last name. Oh.
Or at least show their faces.
I think she does sometimes. I think she does sometimes.
Yeah. Whatever you
But,
said.
yeah,
All I got was the sometimes.
yeah, she does sometimes.
I had already stuck this thing in my ear, which thinks they think I'm gonna.
And I gather that Ted's not there, but he's recording.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's what,
Janet said he was going to do because he had another meeting. Are you ready?
I have to get home so I can finish watching Yellowstone.
Okay. So if you're ready, so that when we're in your neighborhood. Ready when you are.
Oh, I'm ready. You have to wait for us.
Wait, if you're ready, you should have,
To know
you
if you're
should
ready.
yes. Put a mic somewhere near you. Turn it on. Okay. Well, welcome to all those joining us in virtual land. And to Captain Tilton, you're present. Welcome. This is the first regular meeting of the month of March. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. There's no public hearing tonight, but there are a bunch of deletions and reorderings of the agenda.
I thought there was only two.
Well, there's more deletions. Oh. So we have these two additions, which in light of previous comments made, which I took to heart, we should perhaps do at the end of business. And then the capital project planning, although I hope to talk about it today, I don't have anything ready for it, so we can take it off. And I'm suspecting we may be in the same place with the workplace violence for assessment team. Is that correct?
What about it?
Are we ready to deal with it tonight?
I understand.
The workplace violence, did we get anybody from highway yet?
Have we got anything?
No, we're still working on it.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
so we can take that off then.
Yeah,
So that leaves the rest of it. Anything else to add or delete?
um, maybe we should just mention the sexual harassment training. And
Okay.
did look, yeah, anyway, that should just be mentioned, maybe,
Put it at the end?
the court and clerk audit, we should probably either talk about it or arrange a time to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
because I think those are supposed to be done.
We already assigned people to do the court audit
Yeah,
months ago.
well, we need to do it.
Yeah,
Well, last year, I guess.
yeah, but I mean, it's for this year.
Yeah,
That was
Um,
done, was that done at the organizational meeting? I think
I didn't understand one thing you said.
I said, did we do that
Right.
at the organizational meeting?
I think so.
I think-
Yeah. Well, we just decided who, but we haven't talked about how or, I know Laura has the sheets that we go through and we need to get with Gary and Teresa about when. And
Yes,
or Diane,
right.
yeah.
So you want to bring
And
it,
Janice.
you want to talk about that a little bit?
And I want to, talk about trees for tribs.
Sure.
Yeah,
You want that on the business, or you want to do it under announcements?
I guess announcement.
Yeah. Clerk.
The court, there were two audits that I thought that the town board was
Court
supposed to
and
do,
clerk.
the court and the clerk. Yeah,
And then, but there was another item you mentioned before
the
that.
sexual harassment
Oh, right,
training.
right.
I just want to make sure we're all have the same link, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to actually put the link that Laura
Laura here.
has in the
Laura is
policy. So. I thought she-
Why don't we talk about that a little bit more to talk about? It's not just an announcement.
Right,
We'll put that at the end of
Okay.
business. Okay. All right, so, the floor is next. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board?
I would like to go to the board.
You
This is Janet.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I just wanted to mention the incident that just happened this afternoon, of a suspicious incident. I have outlined it in an incident report form, but it underscores the workplace violence threat assessment issues, in that Cindy and I were the only ones here when it initially started, and then Cindy left, and I was the only one here as the incident continued. I don't need to go into it unless you would like me to read the incident report, but I just wanted to bring that to the attention that another suspicious incident occurred today, and that's it.
Mhm. You want to hear more about it? Or?
well, probably we should know if there was some incident. We should
Sure,
know what happened.
right. Well, the question is whether, you wrote it up, right, Janice? I mean, do you want to have, to see the written report, or do you want something
we
more?
should see the written report.
Yeah,
Yes,
Right.
and I do plan on submitting that to you.
What?
Do you want me to give the brief summary? I wasn't sure if I caught that.
I'm having a hard time understanding. I'm having a hard time hearing. Is anybody else, or is it just me?
it's the nature of the hall and the
No, I
sound
can't.
system. Awful, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
It's just, if people could, I'd like to hear it, Janice, if you could just talk slower, maybe that might help, but maybe.
Yes, I can speak slower. Where did I put it? Basically, the gist is that there is an individual. I put his age in late 20s, early 30s. He has come to town hall a number of times and generally always acts a little off. I don't want to insinuate what he may or may not be doing, but he was rattling at the back court door for quite some time. And then we saw him come around to the front main entrance. No, first he went away, and then it was creepy. So Cindy and I decided to lock the front door because we were the only ones here. And then he came back to the main entrance and just stood there staring, and that was also creepy. And then he came back a number of times, and finally the last time he came back, he did yell something at my window, to which I peeked around my screens, because you all know I have these screens and I can't actually see out the window. And so then he saw me and he said he had to use the restroom. So I let him in to use the restroom. He said he was catching the 5:19 bus. I let him in to use the restroom. He was in the restroom for a few minutes. And then he left saying some gibberish, and that was that. But he is a repeat weird person. So it's just you know, after the fifth time, I feel like it's something that needs to be documented.
What did he want?
Use the restroom evidently.
Oh, to use the restroom?
Yeah, at the last time he came up, he said he needed to use the restroom before catching the bus. We did notice when Cindy left, we did notice that there is a cell phone that has been pushed into the court mail slots. We don't know if he found it and was trying to just turn it in. It is still sticking out there. If y'all want to take a look, you can go around and find it. But
Did
yeah,
anybody look at the cameras? Does anybody know who this fellow is?
I do know his name.
Okay, so I probably don't need to publicize his name.
No, I don't want, but and David has been in town hall when he has been in a couple of times, and Steve was in town hall once when this person has come in, and just always acts very I don't know, David, do you want to make any comments or?
He may be does he live in Danby?
Yes,
I mean, you know, he may have issues, you know, and
yes,
you know, whether we need to talk with him about how to get what he needs, or,
absolutely.
I don't know.
Yes.
So, any comment, David?
Oh, I was just gonna chime in that I have been here when this person comes in and, you know, seems to ramble incoherently and be lost and wander around and just act generally strange. And I can imagine not wanting to be alone at night in a building under those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for writing the report, Janice.
Sure. Yeah, it's done, so I'll just send it out to you all.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this guy needs a little help and
Yeah,
direct him to it.
yeah.
Uh, Thanks. Anyone else with privilege of the floor?
Gary.
Gary, yes. It looks like a hand up, Gary.
I think he's clapping.
Is that a clapping hand?
I didn't know what I was doing, but what time did all this happen? I'd like to take a look at the camera ourselves.
Yeah, sure. It started around 4, sometime between 4 and 4:10. And it lasted until he caught the 5:19 bus. So
So he actually didn't make a threat or anything, though. It's just that.
no,
that was strange.
yeah, he doesn't make a threat. He just in some instances appears menacing, and you know, I am unsure of what he is capable of doing in any particular state that he might be in.
Any other comment, Gary?
No, I'll just take a look at it tomorrow.
Okay. Anyone else? We're gonna have Rhonda here tonight. Come on, you. All right, any correspondence, Dan?
I don't think she heard.
I don't think, it maybe didn't. Janice, is there any correspondence?
No,
No.
sorry.
Okay. Leslie, you want to tell us about trees for trees?
This is something that comes up every year, I think. But the DEC has a program that they call Trees for Tribs, where you can get a buffer in a bag. But applications are due on April 7th, and people just, anybody can apply. It needs to be somebody who either owns or manages land in New York State and has at least 50 feet along a stream or a water body. And I know I mentioned it, I think last year. I don't know if anybody, Dave, do you know if anybody applied at all last year? No,
Not that I know of.
yeah, I just think we should encourage this.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we would know if anybody applied either, but
Yeah, well,
did I
I
read,
don't know.
did I read that there's like 350 of these bundles?
I don't know, it's a first come, first serve. But, and also if you have permission, anybody can do it on the, if a landowner gives permission, you could
Somebody else can do
could
it.
apply for
Yeah.
them and put them in, but, I think we should encourage people to do it, and maybe I could give Janice the information and get put onto the front page of the
Yeah, we could put it, we could
website,
put it on the
Trees for
website. We
Trees.
could also put
Tributary.
it in the,
tributary waterway,
and trees for
trees for
tribs.
tribs.
Trees for
In a preferred
tributaries.
bag.
Do you know what kind of trees they are? Oh, it's things like,
Probably
willows
willows
and red osier dogwood and
Yeah,
that are
um,
provide a little both shade and help hold the banking.
yeah. This year it's wetland rose, pussy willow, 90 bark, silky dogwood, and black oak. But, yeah, maybe we could get the information out and,
We could put, I mean, if you want to write a little bit up,
Yeah.
that could go into town news too, because
Okay.
it's still
Oh, yeah.
timely.
No.
no,
April, wait, it's the April issue, which is already gone through.
Yeah, yeah.
We just got, right?
Yeah.
It's too late for that. Best we could do is put it on the website.
yeah. Yeah,
You could do an email blast.
That's true.
This is April 7th?
Yeah.
Actually, you
April
might be able to be time on April 7th, yeah, it should be.
okay.
Yeah, you can get it.
April
in there.
7th. I mean, it is first come, first serve, so I mean, the sooner people get it in, but Dave's suggestion is also a good idea,
Yeah.
so. All right,
I mean, it's before the deadline, but it's first come, first served.
right,
It might be already gone by the time we get,
yeah, I don't know I have no idea how popular it is,
yeah.
but it's certainly worth going after, I
Mhm.
think.
We do have the Kirk report. We do not have the code officer's report. Steve hurt his back.
Oh, doing,
And
is he all
so,
right?
Hmm?
Is he all right?
not quite, but it's working on it. It's a displaced disc.
Uh,
He's got a good chiropractor in Vestal that's working on him every day. And
Oh,
he was sitting upright for the staff meeting this morning and had, pillows underneath and pillows on the side.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
But he didn't get his report. Set him back a little bit.
Yeah.
And Laura, despite the fact that she's here, is not feeling well either. With the latest illness and the succession.
Oh, yeah, it just seems like there's something all the time in our household. But we're getting there, plugging away.
Yeah. Jack's got it now.
Huh?
Yes.
Jack's got it now too.
Oh,
With the awful virus.
Yeah, everything,
Yeah,
close family. Yeah.
Okay. And David, you want to give us the latest summary?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll start with the grant situation. So can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Our grant writing RFP is due tomorrow to choose a grant writer to work with for the year. I already have 2 applicants. The homeowner rehab program, Joel is signing and leaving for me the contract tonight. So that is the very last step for that to be rolling. There are flyers at the clerk window and also on the table where you came in. They're bright yellow. If you know anyone who is interested, you can share that information with them. It has the income limits on it and some basics about the program. And I also started conversation with the Danby Community Parks Association about the county's Parks and Trails grant, which opened yesterday. And it's open, I think about a month and a half. So I'm hoping that we can put together something with them. It's a small grant, but similar to the grant writing grant. It's like a little bit of money that we can keep going after to make little improvements every year. So the Dotson Park isn't the only thing that it could be used for, but it is the thing that I think makes the most sense given timeline, as long as they're willing to work together. So I'm hoping I'll hear back from them soon with a scope of what they'd like to do with that. And I'll bring a resolution to the town board at the next meeting. We had both a planning board and a BZA meeting, quite a full agenda at both. We are looking at 229 East Miller, which is a proposed 3-lot subdivision of an 82-acre parcel. Received a variance for one of the lots, the one with the existing house, to be smaller than the 10 acres, with conditions that they not get any more lots total than they would without the variance. We also heard the last step of 105 Beardsley Lane Tourist Home site plan review was granted by the planning board, and that was also before the BZA for a hearing on my interpretation on that use, which the BZA upheld. And we signed documents on 38 Valley View Road subdivision in the West Danby hamlet. And then finally, that's all of the BZA meeting as well. So that is the quick summary of last month. We will be having 229 East Miller will be back at the planning board this month. And I believe it may be a light meeting. Should be nice.
Planning with me might be late.
I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah. When you lean back, it's hard for us to hear.
Oh, I said that the planning board agenda may be light.
Mhm. Yeah. Thanks. We'll be hearing more from you in a bit.
You will.
The warrants.
Did the one $400 change get made?
Yeah.
Yes.
400 instead of 4.
Yep. And the other mistake was corrected as well, was 1,600 to
And
1,400.
the what?
The other mistake, 1,600 to 1,400.
That was the first, but the 450, that one got corrected, but it got corrected as 400.
Right.
Two of them got corrected. The two things you mentioned got corrected.
Okay, they
One
got
of which-
corrected, but the first one, the overhead door was corrected wrong. So it needed to be corrected again. I assume Janice got that.
It is corrected again. So now it shows 450 on the abstract for a total of 700 for Ithaca overhead door.
So the total is different, right?
The
What
total has been updated on the agenda as well. So the total is 22,018.90.
018. Okay. I have 218. No, am I adding wrong? No, oh, that's adding in the 450 because the 450 was left off of this,
Yeah.
this
Well,
total.
it was put in as 400. And then it
It
was,
wasn't put in at 400 when I looked at it. So
Right.
when I got my original that said 21,768.90, it did not have 400 or 450 in there. I added 450,
okay,
which came to, I got 22,218.90.
And then you subtracted 200 for the mistake?
for the 1462.
Okay, that's it. That's it.
Which brings it down to 22,018.
All right, so it's 018.
Mhm.
total. Okay. And the only other thing I had was the water and the general, the heading says it was presented to the town board on February 22nd, so that just needs to get changed.
I fixed that already. It's done.
That was, yeah, that was fixed. We don't have to do these all at once, we just want to move one at a time. Or if you're happy with those,
I think it'd be good if
we
we went
can.
back, we're doing it one at a time, because then we get the, I'll move the general fund abstracts 81 through 92 for $22,018.90.
second,
A point of clarification that's vouchers, not abstracts.
right, vouchers.
What?
You said abstract, but you meant vouchers.
The voucher's 81
Yeah.
through 92. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay, Janice?
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Weisberg,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
Move water district, abstract voucher 7
7 or 6?
for
Seven.
$295.
Second.
I have 7.
It is voucher 6.
Say again?
Hang on.
Says 7.
It says
Where-
7.
where-
It says 6 on the agenda.
Agenda, it says
Uh,
6, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
What?
let me double check.
On the abstract, it said 7.
What does it say on the voucher?
7.
Then it's 7 it is.
That's
7.
voucher number 7, right? It's abstract 5, voucher 7.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But
Six.
the February, we did 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is 7.
Okay, so that was a motion from Leslie.
Seconded by Weisberg.
Okay. Ready?
Me,
I guess so. Go ahead.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Weisberg,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
I'll move the highway fund, abstract voucher.
No, for vouchers.
It's an abstract that I'm approving, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
got vouchers 41 through 51,
Second.
right?
For,
For $22,439.06.
your second? Second. Second. Ready? Okay,
Connors,
Yep.
Hunter,
Yes.
Weisberg,
yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes. So first up in the new business, or business period, the water district has been in need of a new assistant operator. Todd Contract aspires to retire. And we've been trying to find somebody to line up to take his place. And we found somebody. He needs to be trained though. So I believe we already authorized the training. The district agreed to pay for it in exchange for a commitment to be hired once he has the necessary training. The possibility, when Laura looked into this, we discovered that Groton has dealt with a similar situation. The way it's been dealt with in the past is essentially it's a shadowing period where you, for I think it's 6 months, you have to work with an operator to sort of learn the ropes. And that has been an unpaid commitment on the part of an applicant. Groton created a trainee position that is, which allows them to pay somebody for on-the-job training, essentially. And we'd like to, when this possibility came up, I brought it to the water committee to say, this is something we would like to do. And the census group was, yes, it is. So what we need, they need authorization to do it, to create this position of operator trainee. And then it's up, it still needs to be worked out, you know, what the compensation is going to be, whether it's going to be for all the time, some of the time, and at what rate. It could just be a lump sum, could be an hourly thing, you know, so that's all to be worked out. And the group is going to convene and talk about, you know, how to do it. But that they want to do it is something that is, you know, they're pretty much committed to, if we're okay with it. Now, the interesting thing is that the Groton position is a competitive position. Our district has got, both of our operators are non-competitive.
Right.
So it's kind of strange that the trainee be competitive when the operators are not competitive.
So we just have to get permission from the county.
We have to get permission from the, is it the county or the state,
I
or,
thought it was the county.
yeah, to make it a non-competitive position.
Tompkins County has to petition the state.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how it goes. They have to petition the state.
Right.
So, so I propose that we, which is the same thing as motion, I propose that we authorize the creation of this position and that we request its classification as non-competitive.
I'll second that.
Question?
If it's not competitive, how do we select the candidate?
Well, the, what we did was we recruited, you know, try to find somebody who's willing to do it at all. And we were lucky to find somebody who's in the district, interested in doing it. And happens to be the son of the operator. Sean went. He's got a lot, and he's highly competent. I mean, he's got the aptitude, put it that way. He has both the aptitude and the interest. He's been regularly attending meetings of the committee. Demonstrated his skills for support. You know, you get a lot of tech skills that would be kind of nice to have as part of the team. He also works for E&B, so that he's just down the street, so to speak. You know, their facility is in the town of Newfield, but it's about 6 miles from the middle of West Danby. So he's within you know, easy driving distance in the event that there's something comes up that needs to be dealt with. So a lot of the stars align, you know, and being a prospect.
Is it a position we need to advertise for?
Well, that's the thing about, that's what non-competitive means. You don't have to advertise for it. If
Well,
it
you
was-
don't, it's not civil service, so it's,
Well, if it's competitive, you have to advertise for it.
right.
That's my understanding. If it's non-competitive, you don't. That's the nature of non-competitive.
Right. So, I mean, I'm just looking at the way the town usually hires people, usually. And usually there's some advertisement. I mean, it sounds like there's somebody who's maybe already doing the job or isn't, you know, is a known person.
There were actually, we did solicit interest,
Right,
but we didn't do it through the civil service.
right. Well, you don't have to, 'cause, yeah.
Yeah. And there were a couple of people who expressed interest, but only one of them showed up to be, you know, interviewed and spoken to. And that was Sean.
Oh, okay. Well, sounds like there was a process for
Yeah.
soliciting interest.
It's kind of like time enforcement.
We're not talking about that right now. Okay, so I mean, it sounds like
Yeah.
that's something that's already happened.
I'm sensitive to the, you know, that, and I raised
Yeah.
the point, you know, we want to make, we want to avoid, creating a situation where somebody has an inside track without an opportunity being at least presented for others
Right,
to express an
right.
interest.
That was my.
Right,
Yeah. But the reality of it, it's a very part-time job. It doesn't pay a whole lot, and it's got a lot of responsibility associated with it.
has an amount been talked about?
For the training,
Yeah, how much,
well,
what
the
the pay is?
the position only pays like $4,000 a year.
The
the assistant.
position, not the trainee,
Yeah,
but the position.
Yeah,
How much is the talk of paying, how much are we talking about paying the trainee?
that is the discussion yet to be had.
Okay,
So,
we'll wait until after the county gets permission from the state to make it non-competitive.
right,
Okay.
A, create the position, B, make it not
Right.
competitive. And then in the meantime, I can pass on that, you know, we're in support. They have to have that discussion about how much. And, you know, it just basically make a recommendation that could, because the decision body is this one.
Right.
Town board,
Right.
I could decide, but, you know,
Okay.
there's no reason why we would want to second guess, you know, we could.
I don't know,
But the,
it might just feel like it
yeah, they haven't,
for fun.
there's a diversity of opinion on the matter. You know, they're in agreement that it would be good to pay them.
Uh-huh.
Pay. There was, that was itself a discussion, because in the past, you know, are you okay with it?
Right.
You preceding two, who went through all this without being paid. Are
Right,
you okay
right.
with pay, now, pay somebody to
Right.
do it? Yes. And now the next, this question is how much and
Right.
how? You know, is it going to be a lump sum? You know,
Right.
pay you $3,000 while you're being trained? Is it going to be an hourly thing? Is it going to be a fraction of your time? You know, it's
Do you
a,
get paid when you get done with the training? You know,
yeah, right.
yeah,
So anyway, that discussion has yet to be had. They've actually scheduled an extra meeting. They normally meet once a month.
oh, cool.
There's going to
Okay.
be 3 meetings this month, because they already had the regular meeting.
Uh-huh.
A couple of them going to be away at the normal meeting time in the month of April, so they backed it up to the 31st, when they
Okay.
could make it. And then they scheduled another meeting on I think it's the 15th, because we're still trying to discern what went wrong with the calculation for how much revenue was expected from
Oh,
the
right.
increased water rate. There was
Right.
a serious shortfall,
Right,
and it's like, why? What happened? What went wrong? So
right,
that analysis, we now have 4 quarters worth of data on, you know, how much water was billed.
so that's gonna be on the 15th,
Yeah. You want to come to the meeting?
maybe,
I can pass it on, I'll pass on.
it might be fun.
It's
I
at
haven't-
5
I've
o'clock.
only been to one meeting.
Yeah, it's at 5 o'clock. Both meetings are at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 31st to talk about the position,
Well, the 31st is the regular
or the regular,
meeting,
okay,
so I'm not sure
Okay,
how
well-
much they'll cover on the 15th, but it's focused primarily on the water rate issue.
right,
You know, what went wrong
Right.
and now what? You
right,
know, how to compensate for it? Do we
Right.
increase the rates to what would generate the appropriate income, given the objectives that were the basis for setting the rate, which was that we wanted to go from something which was primarily tax supported to something that was primarily usage
Right.
supported.
Right.
So it went to, the goal was 80% of the district budget was to be raised by usage and 20% from taxes.
Oh,
That's not the way it worked
Wow.
out. So now the question is, do we make it all up by increasing the
right,
water rate? Or do we put more on the tax side? Do we restructure things? And all of those things are coming back into the conversation, even though we had a framework for moving forward, because we've got new people.
right,
So they need to be, you know, we need to go through it again. And Candace Balmer, who is the connection with the New York Rural Water Association, has been very helpful in the original examination of the structure, and is party to the review of what went wrong, and will probably be party to the discussion about what to do about it as well.
cool. Alrighty.
So, are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, Jan,
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
Yes,
Weisberg,
Yes,
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon.
yes. The response protocol for emails directed to the town board. Our email policy doesn't address this question.
I probably did.
I looked.
I didn't look.
The question is, when somebody sends an email to the town board, who's supposed to respond? Because, sometimes we get a bunch of emails, we don't always have to respond, and sometimes it's even.
Do you have a copy of isn't there, I mean, and there's one sort of aspect of response, but when an email comes and it's addressed to,
Town
the
board.
planning board or the town board, right? I seem to remember there being a statement in there saying that it needed to be passed on, whatever the correspondence was, needed to get to those people in a timely manner. I
The-
thought I remembered reading that.
When you mean the ones to whom is addressed? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not anything about, I'm not getting to the who gets to respond. I'm talking about I'm backing up and saying that there's something, I know I read it, that talked about getting it to like if it's addressed to the town board, that the
Mhm.
town board gets the correspondence in a timely manner.
Well, I mean, if it's an email to town board it would come to us in our inbox. I don't,
Well, not everybody knows that. I mean, it may be a written thing. It
well,
might
yeah,
be-
but then we're talking about a larger question than just the email policy. We're talking about somebody submits a letter or something and it's addressed to the town board. How does that get to us? Right?
I actually feel like all of it matters.
Well,
If
sure it
something
does.
comes to the town board, because we've already had this issue come up when somebody wrote and you answered it. And then what you said in it was that it appeared that nobody was interested and therefore you would answer it.
Well,
That bothered me when that happened. And then when this one came up, because it was one of those fill in the blanks on the front of the website.
Oh.
And it was asking about the noise law. And because the noise law keeps showing up on the website as an ongoing current issue.
mhm.
And so I thought that it should be, the town board should discuss it, and that's my feeling. I don't know how to solve that problem. The other issue that I think I heard was that if somebody writes, they want to know whether or not we got it. We had another issue with that, I think from the Montgomery. They wrote and they felt that nobody answered, but another time I recall the discussion that if somebody writes to the town board, wait a minute, let me get this straight. I lost my train of thought. It has to do with whether or not it's a timely response to the person. And that was something we were just discussing, I
Mhm.
think. If somebody writes, they want to know that they heard us, because then they don't believe that we did if nobody answers them.
Yeah, so if you have an acknowledgement of receipt, something like
Right.
that would be kind of nice.
And that may be an interim thing. It's a response that says that your letter has been sent on to the town board. Oh, I know what it was. The reason that I understood, I believe that you suggested this, Joel, that we can't all answer it or it's considered a meeting.
Well, if we get into back and forth discussion, yeah, that's not appropriate, but
Right, and this was it was a question that Rhonda had asked at one point. And nobody answered because we had that concern that it would look like a town board meeting. So I'm bringing the whole thing up because I think it's confusing and it's issue that bothers me.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's use that as an example of not every time somebody emails us would we necessarily want to or need to respond, because I mean, Rhonda is a regular communicant, so to speak. She sends a lot of messages to the town board. Sometimes we might want to respond, and other times we just say, well, just let's
Yeah.
you know, receive the information. That's nice. It might be good to acknowledge receipt. Yes, we got it. I think it's a reasonable presumption if you send it to townboard@danby.ny.gov that we got it.
Right,
It's a presumption only.
Yeah.
I think it's important to say something back.
Mhm.
I mean, not all correspondence comes that way. I mean, what I would call an incident that I remembered was, it was a person who was writing a complaint about a business. And it was addressed to the town board and we never got it until after
Yeah,
somebody had already responded to the person, and the person was saying, you know, how come the town board didn't get back to me, or so, you know, something like that. It was, but the town board never got it.
right.
So it must not have been an email to town board then.
Whatever it was, it could have been a letter, but it was addressed to the town board. If the
Yeah.
heading says, "Dear Town Board,"
Yeah,
"Dear Planning Board," I mean, it needs to get to those people.
right.
That, you know, and the who's gonna respond is another matter. But I think
so
there have
step
been a
one-
number of times that
Yeah,
in whatever system we're working in, it's not working. That we haven't gotten. I'm sure that's probably
So, I mean,
true
if
with everybody.
I presume that these are things that come to the town hall. So I mean, so Janice, you're probably receiving such things in the mail. Is there protocol for sending them on to the addressed party? Is it addressed to the town board or planning board or?
Yeah, and I would say that I haven't gotten anything in the mail addressed to the town board. So I don't generally receive written correspondences. Emails are the most frequent, and followed up with the forms that are on the website.
All right, sometimes it comes on the website.
The form for them was that Janice just added the town board because it wasn't on there.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
yeah,
the specific one I was talking about, I don't know, are you understanding which one it was? It was somebody who was complaining about a business on Sandbank Road, and wanted to know what the town board was
Right,
going to do
that's
about
right.
it,
Yep,
and we never got it. We never
Right.
got the answer. We never got the correspondence.
and they wrote a
Or-
second one and said they were angry that we didn't respond to
Yeah.
them.
So,
was it an email?
I don't remember. I could dig it up. I think it was an
I think
email
it was
to
an
somebody.
email. I mean,
It
I've
doesn't
seen
matter.
it after
It's
the
an
fact.
email. It goes to your address, but it says, "Dear Town Board." Just like somebody could send it to me.
Yes, and it says, "Dear Town Board."
To get it to everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's conceivable that if it came to me and it said, "Dear Town Board," that I didn't notice that it didn't go to the town board.
Who knows who it went to? I
Yeah.
can figure it out, but it doesn't really matter. We need to just figure out a way to.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, right, well, that's what,
Yeah.
you know, when we focus on what do we need to do to make it better.
Yeah,
Can we do kind of some sort of auto reply, Janice, for things
You-
that's addressed to the group?
Yes, and Leslie, if you're talking about an email that was sent December 27th, I just found one by searching for Sandbank Road, and it was addressed to supervisor, to you, to Pat, to Catherine, and to the clerk office. And in that, this person had responded to a previous email that was sent on December 1st saying, "Good morning, town board." That's
Was
Just-
that one addressed to me or?
that December 1st email was again to Supervisor L. Connors, P. Woodworth, HK Hunter, and clerk office. saying, good morning, town board. So it went to the proper recipient.
So we all got it.
Okay.
Huh?
I probably remember, it's possible I remember that, but that it came on the heels of the other letter when we were told basically not to answer one person because there was a lawsuit going, and if we had an answer, it looked like it was a meeting. So I'm finding that both those things conflicting, and I don't know what we could do about it. And the thing is that if there's an answer by one person and the rest of us don't know anything about it, and we're on the hook for it, I'm not comfortable.
Right, so that's the
That's
next,
basically
so that's the
what I'm
next step. Okay,
Yeah.
so we have a, it'd be nice to add an acknowledgement of receipt, and we can do an auto reply saying, thank you for your inquiry. It's been sent to
Uh-huh.
whatever to respond.
Yeah.
If they're going to,
Uh-huh.
is that what we want to say. And then the question is, how do we handle that? Because sometimes I respond, but I don't always respond. And maybe if when I do, I could CC, or I could even blind copy the board to see, so that you could see that I responded and what my response was without starting a conversation, because the person to whom I'm replying won't know that it went to the rest of the board too. If you reply to all, then we get into the problem of the back and forth, which we don't want to do.
Well,
that.
no, we can have an issue where that if that's the case, then the next time there's a meeting, we have to talk about it, and we do it in public. But I think that is the issue. You can't put blind copy and copy it. So we could put all of us on it. And I think the issue is the way it appears that one person is speaking for all when we haven't had a discussion. So
Yeah.
technically, we're not supposed to have these discussions, but we're supposed to answer. So we need to figure out a way that it works.
It depends on what it is. If it's a technical question about what has happened in the past or what's on the agenda coming up, then it's
Right.
quick to do an answer. If it's a policy issue or a question, then the response should be that it will be taken up by the board.
That's a good thought.
Yeah. And it's a question of who's responding. I mean, I've been doing some of them, but it doesn't have to be all me. I mean,
But we're not going to have the response till after we have a discussion, and in the discussion, we can respond, we can say this is
Well, I
what we
mean,
want to respond.
well, I mean, but I think there should be a response. The
Well,
response should be to say, you're bringing up a question of policy. The board will take it up.
Yep.
So that they know that we're
Yep.
going to deal with it.
I think that's good. I think that's a good, because we have had people say the board doesn't, they just, we're caught between a rock and a hard place. We're not supposed to talk about anything. We're supposed to come in and have a big, all of a sudden it's presented and we barely have a chance to even think about it.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then we're supposed to act.
Right.
So I think I like that second idea that this
Yeah.
particular question is of
And that's just
something
picking up
nature.
on what Pat just suggested, which is that if it's a question of information, again, explaining, if they ask a question clearly because they don't understand, what the current law is or whatever, that can be explained to them. If it's a question, if they're questioning a policy or something, then it's a matter of something we ought to talk about. And they will, we'll bring it up and talk about it.
Well, in that particular, the one about the cidery issue, that particular one weighs in, if you're going to say it's a question of policy or rules or whatever, some of that could have been a code thing. Some of it could have been a planning board. Some of it could have been a highway question. So,
Yeah, and then I don't remember if it was connected with that or not, but David responded.
Right.
Yeah.
David
To
responded
explain,
before we even knew it happened.
to explain what was allowed.
that was
and not.
before we even got a letter, I think.
Yeah,
I think the person had come to the town, maybe talked to David. I don't know how it all happened, but by the time it got to us, it was, why didn't you guys do anything? Why didn't you answer me? And that was what,
Yeah. Well, I gathered after we got into this a bit that she had approached David multiple times about this. And she was essentially lobbying for action, within what she understood to be the rules. And David disagreed with her about what the rules allowed and didn't allow.
we probably should have known about it. It probably would have helped because by the time it got around to us, it was,
She was mad.
yeah,
Yeah,
And that's just one example.
yeah,
yeah.
one
But-
example.
That's just,
And
But
if
it's a-
somebody comes in and talks to David individually, like a lot of people do that.
Right.
On purpose, and it's supposed to be that way,
Yeah,
but not coming to us. And then if they want to bitch about it afterwards, we don't control that. They don't have to come and talk to us.
Not
before
talking
they
about
can talk To
we're not
David.
talking about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about correspondence or residents who want to address the town board or the planning board or.
But the
some-
example you gave was something that said they already had talked to David beforehand. That was the example you gave.
It was a letter that was addressed to the town board.
yeah, but I
That's
think
all.
I think the letter was sort of down the stream, so to
Yeah,
speak.
that already
There
come
had
to
been
me.
It
multiple,
was very specific.
yeah, yeah,
We
specific,
we
but
could argue about it a lot. I just know that I would like.
I'm not looking to argue
Well,
about it.
you
I just want to clarify what happened and what, what was it, what an appropriate response should have been. And then so that we can do it appropriately. But, the way it unfolded was she first approached David and had 2 or 3 times evidently.
Uh-huh.
And then she wasn't happy with his response.
Right.
That precipitated a letter to the board,
Uh-huh.
essentially complaining about how she was being treated. At that point, perhaps the appropriate thing would have been to say, well, you're raising a policy issue here. We should have board discussion about
Yeah,
it.
we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying that that we have to know everybody who calls David or Steve or anybody. I'm not suggesting that at all because they have to do with their job as it, I call David and ask him a question.
Yeah, Pat said, it happens a lot.
That's totally different.
Yeah.
What if someone addresses the board and in order to decide whether it's a policy question, you need to get more information from them? Does it make sense for someone to reply all and ask for specific information?
Oh.
Can you make a small example of what you just asked? Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that doesn't fall clearly.
Could you
into
close
it.
it, your mic? I'm not sure that.
Yeah.
folks
Yeah,
can hear
I'm trying to think of something that doesn't fall clearly into a specific category or, maybe 2 categories, but maybe something like, my neighbor's driveway isn't getting plowed. So that it's not clear, okay, is this a town thing that they should be plowing it? Or does your neighbor have a business that they should be maintaining it? You don't really know, is this a zoning issue? What exactly is the issue? I mean, it's not a great example, but my point is it's not obvious
Right.
where they should go.
Well, if it's a question of policy or law, then we should be able to provide clarification without, generating a board discussion about it.
Right.
It's only if it raises questions, if somebody's basically challenging the policy or law, saying, I don't think this is right, it shouldn't be this way. Then, well, if maybe, it's worth a discussion about whether it is right.
Right.
I'll give you a case in point. The building permit situation. We have a schedule of fees, which hasn't been updated in like 10 years, so they're pretty,
Oh, it's been updated.
well, it's been a while. They're pretty low. And the current situation is that if you don't apply for a permit for work that's supposed to have a permit, what happens? You essentially do the work without a permit unless somebody notices. Either somebody else notices and they ask to so-and-so have a permit, because if you got one, you're supposed to prominently post it. And people get them and don't post them, so you don't know. But the other thing is that, so somebody either complains or the code officer happens to notice driving by, hey, you're putting a new roof on, you didn't get a permit. Say, oh, I need a permit? No. So they need the current policy is that if they get called on it, they have to apply for the permit and pay for it. but it doesn't cost them any more than if they'd applied for it when they should have. So essentially, we have an incentive there for people to simply avoid applying for a permit until they get caught, because they might get away with doing the work and not have to pay for it. And if they do get caught, it doesn't cost them any more than if they'd applied appropriately. So I can see where somebody could complain about that, and then it would come up for us to discuss them. You know, is this the appropriate way to be handling permits? I don't think it is, by the way. I think we ought to change our permit structure.
Well, I think that what you just said is not the idea of somebody complaining and then the person saying, oops, I'm sorry, and paying it. I don't see that. I don't think that we should be punitive. That's what you're suggesting. And I'm not a fan of that, but I'm not sure how, that's one of my other issues. I don't know. I mean, I didn't know a lot of things you need permits for. And every once in a while I see, oh, you need a permit for this, for things that come up. And so our way of trying to get people to know is, I mean, how do you do it? How do we get people to know that you can't have a dog kennel on, on certain road or anything? We don't have a good way to let people know what's going on. So, and I'm not a fan of,
Well, there's two things that we do. There's information on the website in the code section on, what you need a
that means
permit
you think
for.
that means you have to think about that and that you need it in the very first place.
This is true.
We could get Steve to write a little column
Well,
for
and-
the. newspaper.
Right, and he did that back a ways,
Yeah,
when he was
been a
sort of
while,
starting.
yeah.
So there's 2 or 3 months of when do you need a permit, when do you not need a permit,
Right.
those articles. But
Right.
it's been a while,
Those were good.
and,
Yeah.
and.
Yeah, I think they're really important.
Yeah, they are important, and, and the information doesn't, it's not a once and done thing, you have to sort of refresh the thing. But there's plenty of people out there who know better and simply avoid applying.
I
think they can
actually
get
don't
away
want
with
you to say that and keep saying it. I'm resisting that because I don't think that it gains anything to add that. And
But it's
plus,
not
off
part
topic-
of this issue anyway.
I was trying to get to that.
Good point.
I was just trying to say that, and we're off topic.
Yes, good point. Very much. Well,
I mean,
it's
but
tangential.
getting back to the topic, I mean,
Yes.
if somebody, if a resident calls Catherine and asks for information about a rule or whatever, Catherine, if she knows it or has access to the information, she can give the person the
just answer.
information, or she can say, I'll find out and get back to you.
Yeah, or
If
ask
the
the
person
code person or
If
whatever.
the person writes a letter or an email and addresses it to a certain person or a certain group, that information should be gotten to that person or that group. That's all I want. That's what I'd like to see us do better with.
Yeah.
It's not been happening.
Well, I'm not seeing any evidence that it hasn't been happening.
There's at least 3 examples.
Well, the first one you
Okay,
cited.
let's just,
Janice
let's start
said-
now and
Let's
make sure it happens.
assume that you don't see it, but we have seen it and feel it, and we're uncomfortable, and we want to do something a little bit different so that we don't feel uncomfortable and that people do get their answers. We could,
It avoids some resident. It doesn't happen a lot. but
Right.
It happens enough and people get mad.
Well, I can understand why people get mad. I wasn't seeing an example of it having happened, that's all. Because,
I'll give you-
the one that was cited, it turns out, it did go to the whole board.
No, it didn't. Not until after
Well,
the,
the-
I can
record-
send you the letter
Yeah.
that I got, that eventually I got, but by the time I got that letter, the person had already been responded to by at least 2 other people. So let's just avoid, situations like that, and we can pretend they never happened, but,
well, I mean, it's not that they can't happen. It's just that I have had it happen to me.
Okay.
And I can point to times when it happened to you as well, where we got it, but we lost it,
I'm not talking about that.
which is to say,
Yeah.
it ends up entrained in a thread.
That's a
And,
possibility.
and it's like, yes, this came to me a week
Yeah.
ago, but then I didn't see it because it got sucked up into this thread that,
This was,
subsequent emails, and you have to look back,
Yeah.
oh, look, 3 emails ago,
yeah.
I didn't see that.
But
part of it.
that can happen, but then there's probably 2 other people that say, well, I remember getting it. And so I have to shut up,
Yeah,
So Anyway,
I think maybe it's back to that issue of the response, that auto response that we were earlier talking about. Pretty simple. The
Yes.
one, the first one that says, thank you for sending a letter to the town board, we'll disseminate it. And maybe at the point of doing that, Janice could send, or that whoever receives it
whoever gets it, yeah.
gets that and then copies the rest of us to say that this happened, that somebody received the letter and they responded. So if it was to an individual, let's just pretend that Charlie had something and he wrote to Leslie, and Leslie said, yeah, I got the letter. And then she, in her response, she copies the rest of us and said, I got a letter from Charlie and it's, it's being taken care of, or I sent it to the right place for the answer he wanted. It's something, that might be too complicated, but something like that.
Well, I mean, let's go to the next step. Okay, so something's addressed to town board, and it gets an auto reply saying, thank you for your submission, we got it. Now who's going to respond? Well, under what circumstances do we decide who's going to respond? Because not every letter to the town board warrants a response. We've gotten letters from a certain unnamed individual who, we're just sort of it's almost a rant where, it said you should do this and you should this and you should this. That's nice. You can think that if you want to, but I don't necessarily think I'm not necessarily going to respond saying, well, we're not going to do this or this or this because.
Again, if it's something that's factual information,
Yes,
then whoever has the information. And in fact, it doesn't have to be a town board member. If it's
No.
something about zoning, it might be wise to ask David to respond directly.
Or-
If it's something about, that Steve could do,
Right.
he can respond directly. But it's, again, that's factual information.
right.
The other information says that if it's something that's an issue that's brought up that hasn't been determined, or somebody wants to raise an issue that says the current policy is bad, please fix it, then the response can be, we'll consider it in the town board meeting. And that's all. There's two choices.
Yes, I think.
Answer the question or say, we'll look at it.
May I interject for 1 second?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's three choices actually, Pat, because there's somebody's looking for factual information, or they're saying something which indicates that they're missing factual information if you could then supply. There's also somebody's saying something to you that you might not want to respond to that's not about that. And then there's a third option where they're actually raising a question that suggests that the policy could be looked at in response to what they're saying or asking. So that those three options, I think, have to be taken into consideration in deciding how to respond. And the appropriate thing is, as you suggested, I think, where sometimes you can point to, if it's a code question, send it to Steve. If it's a zoning issue, David. Or sometimes I can respond because I know some of these things, but if it's a matter of fact, that's one thing. If it's a matter of policy where it warrants further discussion, it should go to the board. Do you want me to be in a position of making those three judgments and then just informing you, or do we? How do we handle those?
May I interject as the main central hub of communications and correspondences that come through the town?
Yeah.
So I will say that there are two different forms on the website. One is with the button report a concern, and it has things about whether it's a website concern or a road concern, if there's a pothole. That was the idea behind that. Then there's also at the bottom of the homepage, there's a contact form where it shows, who do you want to talk to? And I will say that, sorry, I'm trying to pull up a second window as I speak. The last form that was filled out and submitted was on February 23rd. And it was the form was filled out about the noise ordinance update. And in answer to the question, with whom do you need to speak? They said the court, not sure, ... So all of these queries are put into a spreadsheet and anyone can see them if they wanted to. The email itself, which is a copy of the response that goes automatically to the person. So this is in response to your suggestion that there be an auto response. So anytime someone fills out a form on the website, they do get an auto response. In this case, it says, we appreciate your query from the town's website. We will respond as soon as we can. And then I am able to see that and I forward it. And in this case, this was received Thursday, February 23rd at 10 in the morning, and I forwarded it to the town board at Thursday, February 23rd at 12:20. So 2.5 hours later, it was forwarded to everyone on the town board, which is who it should have gone to, not the court. And since they didn't know who it should go to, I did. Other times there are queries that come in that are for planning, they're for code, they're for the library, whatever, they're for the court. I forward them always to the person to which it should go. I don't receive any written US mail correspondences, maybe once a year. In that case, I scan it in and I send it to the appropriate person, usually the town board. If not, I will put it in the court's thing and Steve and whoever. So if you're talking about those kinds of things, that's already set up and very easy to configure more to your likability. If you're talking about emails that go directly to the town board group alias, those also go to each and every one of you. And again, that email that was brought up about the Sandbank Road signs, that actually was not sent to the town board group email. It was sent to each individual on the board, and it was sent on December 1st, and then a follow-up on December 27th or 8th or whatever it was. So I just wanted to point that out, that there are a number of things that are already in progress, that are configured and that are working the way they're supposed to work. So if there is something that you feel that is missing, let me know.
Yeah, well, it's good to have that, the larger picture here, because that all sounds like an appropriate way to handle it to me. Gary, do you want to comment? You have to unmute.
Oh yeah, let me see.
My suggestion is, why can't, if it comes to the entire town board, designated one town board member, just a quick response saying the town board's in receipt of your letter or email, and it will be, if appropriate, it'll be brought up at one of the upcoming town board meetings, and leave it at that.
Well, if there's something that's a technical question that somebody asks about whether the zoning says this or not, then we should answer it directly. We shouldn't just say.
Technical, yes, I agree.
President doesn't come into meeting. So the question is, we're on the question now of who chooses, whether it's a technical question or we ignore it altogether, or we say it comes up.
I guess I didn't totally understand your last point.
Well,
The point was Joel's point. There's three options. It's a question of a technical question. We just want to answer the question. It's a question of a policy issue that somebody wants, either they want to change the policy, they don't like the policy, there is no policy, which means it comes up to a board discussion. And the third one is just somebody just raising an issue saying, hey, did the town know about this? The party, whatever, which we don't have to respond to. So the question is.
Okay, you just made it so I understand there's a fourth possibility.
No, that was.
No, I heard, okay,
You thought of a fourth possibility.
yes, I did.
What's the fourth possibility?
The fourth possibility is somebody wants to just tell us something that's happening in the town and they want the information disseminated. So that's a separate one from the last.
I suppose, yeah. In which case we just sort of say, well, I've done that. We say, yeah, well, I can put it on the website. We sometimes get that from outside parties. You think to help us help us get the word out about something coming up here and say,
Yeah,
well,
I think the reason that I'm feeling particularly sensitive about this is that I recall, and Gary has said it, and I sort of feel it, and I think that some of the criticisms that we get are legitimate, that the people in the town aren't always, and they would be if they came, which would be really nice, no question about that. And we can't cover every single thing in either of the newspapers, and they all have opinions in them. But this is maybe one way that we could, if there's something even remotely that could be of interest to a broader sense that a lot of people just won't talk about, that it would come up so that we could have it in the town meeting, and then it would be in the minutes, et cetera, et cetera. Something.
That the question was, who chooses that and who, when an email comes in, who is going to
Okay,
be responsible for?
I was
doing it?
trying to say why I brought the subject up with
I know,
earlier.
we're at this point where we want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And we.
I know,
And the question
know,
that was
but-
raised
okay,
was
but-
who does it?
I don't think what you said,
All I know is that if there's something that's addressed to the town board, I want to see it.
I
Yeah.
do too.
yeah,
And I don't have to respond to it. Joel, you told them, or pass it on to the code, or do whatever. But if something comes in that's addressed to the town board, I would like to see it.
And I think the reason, I agree totally, and the reason is I might want to say, when you answer this, can you please
Oh.
not say or do say something that might really bother me? And then you can say yes or no. But at least I would have a chance to say before we send out a letter that says, no, we're gonna paint all the doors on the town hall black. I would like at least be able to say, what? Why would you tell them that? Something like that.
mhm.
So if it does come to everybody, then it might be something, for instance, that let's say it's somebody's neighbor who's been saying a lot to us, and then they write to everybody because they don't feel like they're being heard. And that's, I think, what we've been talking about. People don't feel like they're being heard.
So what you're suggesting, though, Catherine, is that, when we respond, basically when I respond, that you want to see it before it goes to them.
Sort of.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, sometimes, yes. I'm sorry, but
What it is.
yeah.
Maybe we should dig out the correspondence policy and really look through it.
See, they're not going to hear you unless you get a lot.
Policies folder. The town.
I think he's asking about looking for where it is on the documents.
Let's see.
It's in the policy folder in work drive.
I think that for me, having this discussion publicly is probably a big part of what will make me feel better anyway.
Mhm.
But I do think that a twofold response might be helpful.
And by twofold, you mean two.
The one that says,
Yes, it's not.
we got, thanks for writing, and the other part is that
Oh, yeah.
it gets copied to us.
Yeah.
Again, you mean, maybe we got it, but maybe it wasn't, the subject matter might have said something like
Is that it?
roads,
Yeah,
and we would have thought,
I-
this is chat or something like that.
there's a couple things that we could do differently. I mean, I could certainly copy the board whenever I respond.
Might be a lot. How often do you do that?
I do a lot of responses, but they're not always to letters to the board,
Right,
people
right.
send me messages
Right,
all the
that's,
time.
yeah,
There's certain regular correspondence, shall we
yeah,
say.
yeah.
And there's not that many messages from other than the usual suspects,
Yeah,
with whom there are almost daily communications.
right. Right.
I'm not sure it's necessary to see all of that.
Well, if a message comes to all the town board members, it makes sense to, no, so we're only talking about messages that come to the town board members, to town board period. And then they have to reply all.
Yeah, well, yes. it's a copy all,
Copy them.
not a reply all.
That way you're not communicating with each other, which is, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
so, and then we do have the option with Zoho of blind copying. Where, you get it, but they don't get that you got it.
I don't think that's a good
No,
idea. There's a reason that we want to make it
If
a
they
secret.
address it to me, wouldn't it be good if they knew that I got it? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can, I don't.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah.
It's okay, what I want to avoid is it is the reply all option, because then if they respond again, all of a sudden you got a conversation going between the board and this person, which that's the no part.
Well, we have to say that. I mean, the one time I did see that you said something about when you replied, why the town didn't answer, you did reply that. If the town all answers it, it is considered a meeting. And I think that policy is a really good policy for people to know.
Yeah, it's not obvious that,
Right. It's not
There's
obvious.
somebody who, and I just went through this with the water committee, people expect that they can have conversations outside of a meeting. And you're not supposed to do that.
This is the rules of order. Yeah. No, no.
I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I'm glad this subject came up, and I feel as though if we can't resolve it, at least we need to.
Well, no, I
Think
don't
about
think it's not that big a deal. We shouldn't be able to just say, here's how we're gonna handle it.
It's because, different, it's a complicated issue because there's all sorts of different things
Possibility of
that could
response,
happen.
right?
So for me, I'll dig out the correspondence policy. We can't find it in the policy folder. But
No kidding.
we'll, maybe there's some little tweaking there.
Yeah.
But
But for now, I mean, for starters, here, what we got is the adding an acknowledgement of receipt.
Yeah.
And sort of an auto reply saying, thank you for your inquiries. And
it sounds like that already happened.
so, we will respond appropriately. And then, well, I guess I could sort of take it upon. Well, if you don't see anything from me, you can sort of assume nobody's responded.
You're missing the big thing that I hear myself, and I think I hear Catherine talking about, is that in between that last step and the step before, that we somehow become aware of something that was sent to the town board.
Yeah. I think the starting place ought to be something addressed to the town board gets to the town board.
Right.
Yeah, of course. And I think that goes
Okay.
without saying,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
And the question is,
we've beat this dead.
how do we handle it? Once we've got it,
Yellowstone, the movie Yellowstone starts with a dead horse.
Yes. then it's a question of whether we should respond.
Yeah.
So there should be a default. The default is there's no response unless somebody decides to respond. And so I think the board should assume that there's no response unless I feel like responding or somebody tells me, I think you should respond. Is that fair? In other words, we have to assume one or the other. We can't assume there will be a response unless, because I think there are probably more cases of it's better not to respond than there are cases of we should respond.
Yeah.
So I think the premise should be we're not responding unless, I decide to respond. One of you says, I think you ought to respond. And then I do. And then the next step is either I respond and I copy the board, or I do a two-step where here's my response and I send it to the board before it goes on to as the response, because I am speaking for the board.
Right. Yeah, and then some things it's minor, but some things that could put us up for,
Yeah.
why did you say that? Why
Right,
did you,
right,
and we'll say, well, we didn't even know he was gonna say that.
Right. The risk there is that it'll get lost in the shuffle. Because
Because we get a lot of other things.
exactly. So I mean, I have to keep track of this stuff. you know, I can send it, and so I have, if I don't hear back within the day, I think it's okay, and I'll send it on. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, well, so I'll do that two-stage,
okay, well, let's just give it a try, and let's try and work something out.
okay?
Thank you.
I'll write this down before I forget it.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to come clean. I had solar panels installed 5 years ago, and I didn't know until 10 minutes ago that I needed a permit. So,
Right, well, I've had the same
There's
situation
no
too.
fee. There's no fee for that, so,
good.
but because you didn't get the permit, it's gonna be what, $500? Yeah.
Most,
It's funny,
most
because I
places
didn't know
have,
you had to for a roof.
most
Yeah.
people have, most places have a penalty if you don't get a permit when you need one.
Well, that was the whole point, the phrase that you just said, when you know you need one.
Yeah,
Good luck on figuring that one out.
Yeah,
well, this is New York State. I think most people can sort of assume that they need a permit to do anything in this.
No, I moved here and I didn't know that.
so, yeah,
Thing, and codes change. And
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
what's the next thing on the agenda?
All right, so that's, I think I got that down. If you want me to reiterate it, we're gonna acknowledge receipt. This is the stuff that goes to the board.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna ensure as best we can that something addressed to the board gets to the board. We're gonna acknowledge that we received it. There's a presumption that there will be no response unless I decide to respond or one of you suggests to me that we ought to respond. If it
Does it need to be you?
doesn't have to be me,
Could it be somebody else?
it could
Like,
be,
It could be
you know,
Steve saying,
well, it's, you know, if I don't choose to respond, and somebody, and Catherine or Steve or any of you say, I think we should respond, then my rejoinder is going to be, go ahead and write something, and, you know, it could be, it doesn't have to be me,
right, okay,
but I think the process should be the same, which is to say that if any of us is going to be
Right.
speaking on behalf of, that we should probably then run it by the rest of us
Yes.
before it goes out a day later. And the presumption is going to be that if you don't say something within 24 hours,
You're okay with
it's
it.
going, you know. Okay,
One other part that goes with it, I'm a little concerned about the Excel spreadsheet way we're doing things, because
so what?
putting everything in a spreadsheet and then passing it along to us, because I find that,
Like for the complaints on the website?
yeah, the thing that Janice said, she puts everything,
I mean,
think
it's okay to have a record, but essentially
it's not, no, I'm not saying
for
that,
me,
it's not a record to me.
Right.
What a record to me is what it looks like when it comes in, and not redacted or changed or the information, because I think that when something's
Transcribed, essentially it is
transcribed, whatever, from what came in to a sheet, it loses part of the mood of whatever it is that came in.
It could be both, though.
Well, I mean, to be clear, it's not something that I actually physically do. It's an automatic
Wait, everybody's
collection of the
happy.
data.
Wait,
Wait a minute, Janice is trying to clarify.
yeah, but
Is that right?
I thought Leslie was talking and then Janice started, but it doesn't matter. I'd like to hear both what Leslie said and what you're saying, what you do, Janice.
So you go ahead.
if a complaint comes in, I think the example was about noise or something. I want to see it.
Yeah,
I don't,
the form,
but I am not going to every day or every other day check a spreadsheet to see if a new thing came in.
right,
It's no different than with the applications. I
Right.
want to see the complaint or the concern or whatever. And then if somebody wants to keep a spreadsheet, that's fine, but I'm not going to use that.
right. So let's deal with the specifics of how the complaint comes to us. If
So,
it's-
and
if
that's
it's
what I'm
on the
trying
website, it'd be using a website form, right? So you get,
Yeah,
somebody fills in the form
could be.
on the website, right? How, if you have an issue or concern, you fill in the blanks and it goes to you.
so someone fills out a form
Yeah,
and they get an auto response, and I am CC'd on that auto response, so it comes as a PDF. So the person who filled out the form gets a copy of their form responses, and I get that copy. I immediately forward that email to you. The spreadsheet that I mentioned is simply a data collection. I do nothing with it. It's automatic. It's part of the database. So anytime someone completes a form, that spreadsheet auto-populates. It's just a record-keeping spreadsheet that has nothing to do with me. It has to do with data collection and record keeping.
Okay,
So
could I ask a question about that?
yeah.
So when the applications for I'm gonna bring up something specific, the Youth Commission Scholarship. When they're in the spreadsheet, a whole lot of information is not there that would have been. And that's
So
what I'm,
that spreadsheet is different. That spreadsheet I did have to create because it's a different system that is encompassed within itself. So the record aspect of it that you want to see is not accessible. However, what is forwarded to you, which is actually forwarded directly to, it's not forwarded, it's again, the response that the applicant gets in receipt of their submission is the direct PDF of what they responded, what they filled out on the form, and it goes to the applicant and it is CC'd to the Youth Commission email.
okay, then I don't get to see the form. I'm talking about, because there is missing information that the Youth Commission need.
No,
And then that form,
Sounds like for what Janice is saying, you get what she got.
you do.
Is that not the
okay.
case?
That is
That's not,
exactly-
okay, when I look at that Excel list the last time, it did not have everything we needed to respond to the person. I'm saying
Again,
that.
we're talking about two different things.
Yes.
The youth applicant grants, the youth grant applications are a separate system. They're not a straight form. They're a little bit different. So that is something that is set up separately from a straight form in which I can have the spreadsheet of all the records that have been submitted in the work drive. It's like if you have a Google form, Google Forms will automatically create a spreadsheet out of that, and it will be housed in your Google Drive. Same thing. There's a form that is put on the website, and whenever somebody submits something to it, it automatically populates a spreadsheet in Zoho that is in the Zoho work drive. The youth application grants, or the youth grant applications, or whatever we're calling them, are not a Zoho form. They're an application, so it's within itself. The data that comes through it is housed within the application. However, whenever somebody submits that application, they get a copy of their application, and you get a copy of the email that goes to that applicant with the copy of their application.
Okay,
So you
but
should.
that does not give us the information we need to whether or not to grant that. And the thing that I did find is that I did see sorry, this is trying to regroup here.
Get distracted.
I did see that there's a zip file and with all those applications which are not available to me to open. And I and Jamie are the ones, and Maddie are the ones who make the decisions about this.
What I'm hearing Janice say is that you get a copy of each application. Because
I have not seen them. I'm sorry, but I have not seen that. The last one, there's a new one that came and I have not seen it. And I also don't know where
But Catherine, you responded to the last application that came in.
I responded. Why don't you gather this and maybe I'll come in and we'll take a look at it during the day.
Sure.
Yeah, it sounds like a.
Because there's something isn't right, and the fact is, I still can't open that zip drive. Why am I seeing files that says you don't have access to these, they're zipped?
Probably if you are, so those are all HTML files, I see.
Let's
I'll-
not deal with this now, because I think it's
Yeah.
off topic and
Okay.
not very helpful.
I'll come in and we'll look at it.
But so to be clear about the forms and the correspondences to the town board, every email that gets sent to anybody who submits a form has a copy of the original form with. So it actually goes to the website and the website comes to me. So that gets forwarded to whoever it needs to go to. If it's for the town board, I send it straight to the town board. So there's always an attachment. It's a PDF attachment of the form exactly as the person filled it out. I haven't made any changes to anything. I don't touch
So what you're
anything, I
saying,
don't modify anything.
right, so we got the basically the information's in two places. You
Yes,
have you got a copy of the original application or form or letter, or email. And then you also have a record, for record keeping purposes in some sort of a spreadsheet that shows, who asked about what. But the spreadsheet is not the only record. The original record, which is what you want, is shared.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
I'll
and
figure
that's,
it out and scan it.
well, and it's also the same thing, I should say, with the committee applications. So the committee applications, you all also get the exact copy, and then any redacted version is what
Oh.
gets put on the agenda to be discussed at the meeting.
I know we don't get all the applications.
Right.
I know we don't get all those. We have not gotten them this year.
So I haven't been to this
We
year.
didn't originally, and then I think she started doing.
Trying to do them, yeah.
So anyway.
The-
So let's stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Kathleen, you deal with
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
youth thing, 'cause
I'll
that's
go
really
there.
important.
Yes, it is.
Get that stuff.
okay,
Okay.
that's a rather lengthy discussion on 9.4.
Sorry, but it's kind of, some of those important.
Yeah, sure it is.
I don't know where we're
I
supposed
think
to
we've
talk
dealt
about
with it. Okay, for now.
Yeah.
The short-term rental survey. We got this afternoon, right? First,
Yeah.
I haven't even read it. I copied it.
I took a look at it. I did not copy it though. So, David is here to get feedback. You had some interesting comments before the meeting. I'd like to
Well, I don't know.
mention
I mean,
them.
I had.
for the
looked at a
record.
bunch. I had looked at maybe 5 or 6. There were some actually really good surveys that were out there. Not all of them were good.
You did what? You did a web search or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
because it's a popular topic and a lot of people are dealing with it. But, so I just had a couple, I think I had a couple thoughts. Maybe I can just pass them on to David.
Well, I mean, I kind of like to hear them.
I mean, well.
I mean, I'd kinda like to hear what-
One of the surveys that I was looking at, it starts right off asking you who you are. But it also is more like a list. If there's any way we can make this more into sort of an easy answer checklist and where people don't have to read so much. That's just I think that we might get
You want to keep the
more
question- you want the question
responses.
shorter than,
People- Well, I mean, it's a different, I mean, this
yeah.
is good for some, I mean, some people would probably prefer this style than just a checklist, but I think we'll get more responses if it's easier for people to fill out. I mean, some of them that I saw were just, check the boxes that, which of the following describes you? Homeowner in Danby, renter in Danby, I mean, then you check off,
Yeah.
you just check it. I mean, there was some
I
interest.
thought it'll be interesting to know whether the person responding is a renter or a
Yeah.
homeowner.
Yeah, well, and they were also, they were different. There was, well, are you an affordable housing provider? So I mean, there's different ways that people are attacking this, or trying to get information, I mean, and it's, but, when it's just simple, it's just a one format might be simpler, how do you see, Danby, how would you like to see Danby handling short-term rentals? And then just a list, and then
Mhm.
people can check it off.
Is we're talking about the whole universe of short-term rentals, which somehow we have to discriminate between, renting your house or
Well,
apartment, as opposed to renting a tent or a whole family of tents in your backyard.
I mean, you can get into the different types of houses that should be allowed, townhouses, condominiums, apartments, mobile homes, accessory dwelling units, garage conversions, I mean, there's a lot of different things.
Mhm.
And then also, and they just got into it a little bit about the, how important it is to address certain concerns,
Mhm.
some, a little, a lot, none,
Mhm.
but there were just some of the, some of the communities that were doing these were not, I wouldn't say, reflect Danby. I mean, there were a lot of really upscale, close to the ocean, there were a couple, but there were some interesting.
This is a hot topic all over the country.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I read,
That was just my thought, to try and make it
yeah,
easier for people to fill out without having to read so much. That was,
in
I
fact,
didn't see much to read because the questions on the second and third page are fine, but I did find that the first two questions were a little bit confusing.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you feel about the current state, it's gonna be hard to know that if you don't know that much detail.
Yeah.
So I would just leave out the first two questions, but the other ones are short because they're short and they're yes and no answers.
Yeah, I like the second page more. I like
Yeah.
that idea of eliminating the first two questions. I also, a couple thoughts I had. Maybe creating this in a Google form. Because especially if we had it like, not only on the website, but like in the Danby News, if we included a QR code, that people could just scan it on their phone when they get that. We would get more digital responses, and then that's much easier to tabulate. And along those lines, I also thought we should ask for name and address, just to make sure that we don't have like one person filling out the
10
same
forms.
thing 20 times.
well, that's a thought, yeah.
Yep.
And I do like the idea of having some information about the person,
Yeah.
mainly just whether they rent
Yeah,
or own.
Yeah.
And it could be useful and difference between how they own just property or they own a building on property. That's, those are the main three categories.
I actually think that putting those first questions at the very end, optional information might be good, because I think maybe they're,
well, but point that Steve made is a good one, though. If it's optional, somebody who wants to do it multiple times might not.
no, I said, these first two questions should be put at the end. Don't get rid of them, and just put them as optional additional information. Not for somebody to fill out. Wouldn't have nothing, it would be the same form.
Yeah.
I think there is information in there that could be useful.
Well, I mean, how many people know that it's just fine the way it is? I mean,
Well, lots of people probably, some of them who probably rent. The ones that we, it could be that some of the people who answer this will be the owner who rents it out as a B&B, and they're gonna say, probably it's just fine. But the ones who live next door to them who fill it out might say, I don't like it at all. So,
but like, I mean, that was I mean, one of the other things, I mean, like this one, I forget where this one that I really like. I forget where it came from.
Could you
But
be
it was
close,
like-
could you be closer to your mic?
You know, it actually listed out, which of the following issues related to short-term rentals have you personally experienced in your neighborhood? And then it just lists, and you check off, you know, excessive noise, excessive trash or litter, you know, health and safety concerns. I have not experienced any of these issues, you know, I mean, it picks out what it is that's bothering people, or it's not.
Have to.
I haven't experienced any of this.
Mhm.
I mean, it was.
Yeah, but that answer, I have
But,
not,
but
yeah.
what I think that, I mean, how would you like to see the town handle short-term rentals? Allow short-term rentals with regulations, allow short-term rentals with no regulations, ban short-term rentals in all circumstances. I have no opinion, you know, I mean, it's, you know, something that
David's
people
got
can
something like that
just
in
check
his.
off. Huh?
David's got something like that in his.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's yeah.
Yeah, this is
I just
a
think a
trap.
lot of people don't have information. I don't know, you know, I don't know how many short-term rentals there are. I don't know where they all are. I don't know, you know, I know in other communities, some people who've, you know, I've heard their complaints or something. I haven't really heard that many. I've heard some complaints, but not a lot.
Mhm.
But
That's why one of the questions should be what things you're concerned with, what the last question on here is dealing with that.
what else?
What else would you like the town
Hmm?
to, what else would you like the town to
The
know?
very last
Yeah.
one, yeah, what else would you like to know? But
But the second from the last one says, what limits do you think? And the other thing was things like noise and quiet
Yeah,
hours and all that
that's
kind of
kind of
stuff.
a-
Those are the kinds of things that I
Yeah.
think are especially explicitly worth asking.
Yeah, I think that's a good, I mean,
the traffic, that
Yeah.
might be an issue.
Traffic's on
Yeah.
there. Well, actually, more parking on site is an issue, is great.
Mhm. What I liked about the survey is that it wasn't obviously leading. I didn't think, you know, I mean, it would look like we really were looking to find out what people think rather than telling them what they should be thinking. Or telegraphing what we think, which we don't, because we don't really have a position on it yet.
right,
So I mean, to me, it read like something that we're actually looking to find out what people think about it. But there's so many points you just made are good.
well, I didn't, I mean, I could read this over and over again, I mean, I only got it this afternoon, so.
Mhm, mhm.
um,
Yeah, right.
I mean, I was thinking it would be nice, I could just, you know,
Yeah.
share some ideas and pass them off to Dave and see if.
Is it possible for us to comment on this document?
Comment on what?
Right on the document?
Right,
Yes. No.
is it? I don't know.
Well, is this, I forget whether this is in writer or,
I mean, it looks like it's a PDF.
well, PDF you can't,
So,
but,
So I'm
But
like
it doesn't
clicking
have
on
to
the
be a
three
PDF.
dots and it's only letting me report abuse.
yeah.
Which,
Can you fix that, David, so that if we wanted to put some sideline comments in it, back to you, right on the one you already did?
That would be fine. It's also, Janice will be proud. It's a work drive sheet. Is what it was created as, so you can, I believe it's, I'm not sure if I put it in the folder or not, or if I just put the PDF in the folder, but I can share the sheet and you can add your comments there if you'd like.
I mean, some of the criticism or some of the suggestions I was hearing were perhaps more constructively dealt with in something more than a comment, like what you were suggesting is you're suggesting restructuring it. It would be helpful, I would think, to David, if you could submit,
Yeah,
I found this one, which was
Yeah.
from wherever, Gar Harbor,
Yeah.
and really on point, you know.
Yeah.
Easy to respond, easy to respond to, rather than trying to,
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and the one was interesting. I mean, it's hard, you know, to get good, in all the surveys I've done with it, it's hard to get good information when we're making assumptions that people have information or,
Yeah,
but, um, you know, like, instead of asking people what, based on their experience,
mhm,
your experience, what is it? You know, based on your experience, what is your opinion of short-term rentals? I mean, that, you know, questions like that. But,
as long as one of the options is I don't have any experience.
Right, this ain't a problem.
But I think it's also
Yeah,
important,
there's a
that's
lot
why
of
one of the questions is, what are you concerned with?
there's a
And
lot
what are the concerns are, that could be a concern you have, not because you've had it directly, but you've heard from other people that have
Yeah.
had that problem.
Could be.
And that's just as important. So I
Sure.
like the very question, what do you think we should be concerned with? That's one of the most important ones.
right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, but, you know, and maybe people feel like it's not good to feed people ideas, but
Well,
I
and you
thought
have
the
to,
list was very helpful. I mean,
yes,
there's
and,
some
and you do have
you
to,
know,
I mean, and when you say short-term
food for
rentals,
barking animals. I mean, you know, there's,
right, right. Well, the thing is that, you know,
Think about
short-term rentals is a pretty broad
yeah,
topic. And not everybody's gonna know what you mean when you say short-term rental.
Right.
Right.
Everything from renting your house out for a week
right,
or a day to, you know, renting a tent in your backyard. you know.
yeah,
Or a bunch of tents.
yeah,
No matter what, I think it's a really good idea to get it disseminated as widely as possible with as many options for returning it as possible.
yeah.
And I'll reiterate, putting it in a Google form means that we don't have to tabulate the information.
Oh, right.
Like, no one wants to sit at a table with 200 of these.
I love it.
doing- I think we have about here.
So
Yeah.
you're suggesting that it be,
A Google,
A Google form that
Yeah.
people can access through the website or have a URL also in the letter or a QR code. And then we could also have this in the letter, if people choose, they could just like detach it and mail it in or drop it
Huh.
off.
yeah,
But the more digital responses we get, the less work.
mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
but
we
that's one of the big problems we have. Is they don't get anything digitally because we have a lot of places in Danby that don't have any internet. And the other thing is that everybody doesn't have a smartphone. So it's really important to get it out.
Multiple ways.
Yeah.
I mean, to the extent that you can encourage people who do have access to do it digitally.
No crutch,
makes it easier.
Of
but-
course.
But it's also important that we make sure that people who don't have access get access some other way.
Yeah.
can we donate one of the issues of the newsletter to the survey?
Well, that was the question, that was the brief discussion we had before, was how do we get this out, whether, because we talked about making it, whether we could put it in the town newsletter, and the third was what's gonna take up too much space. Could be a special issue,
Right,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it might be the cheapest way to do it.
And it doesn't even have to be a special issue. We have,
Yeah, it
the
could
town
be.
has,
We could use the town.
the town has a license.
Right, yeah, we could use it, we could get a separate mailing,
Mhm.
not necessarily a special issue of the newsletter, but
Mhm.
a separate
Right.
mailing. Survey
Yeah,
to
sure.
everybody.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah, and it probably shouldn't say something that's similar to Danby News because then it just looks like one of the same things
Yeah.
that I never opened or whatever, you know.
No, it should say short-term rental survey, resident survey.
Right.
Okay.
Danby short term.
Rental.
Give us your ideas.
Mhm. I mean, that would, because it's such a hot topic, it's gonna capture people's attention if you put that on the front of it.
Right.
So how do we proceed from where we are to where we need to be in order to get there? So one avenue is to comment on the form where it can be commented on, which David can supply. I think some of your suggestions are more extensive though, and maybe ought to
I could just send them to David.
yeah. And then, of course, I'd be, trust David to maybe he could just interact with you about that. And then what, bring it back next time?
Yeah.
Before next time, we have a chance to look at it. Does that work for you, David?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Right. Okay,
It's your survey. I have no ego about it. You can put in it whatever you want.
yeah,
You spent hours on this, come on. That's, I mean, it's good,
right.
good.
Okay, we have a couple more items to go. The first of which is the, next thing's up, right, is the cannabis. Yeah. We recall that we had this cannabis law to the point where we decided what we wanted, and we charged David with coming up with a revision of the zoning that would incorporate the limitations that are going to be in addition to what zoning has for retail business specific to cannabis. And that has come back to us as a draft law and with seeker. So let's see, the process here, we need to declare ourselves lead agency.
So you need to declare yourself a public hearing. If you feel like you're ready to go there.
Right. The draft law, I mean, I made a couple of suggestions, and they're in track changes, so if
Yeah.
you look at work drivers, they're there,
Yeah.
but I looked pretty close to what
Yeah.
we expected. So, but it's a multi-step process to get to the finish line. We have to
Yeah,
have a proposal. Seeker review has to be done in conjunction with it, which is pretty straightforward, but
Right.
we're not having much of an environmental
no, I
impact.
thought it looked good, I just had one question,
Mhm.
really, and that had to do with the signs.
This time,
Yeah, just with the, that last sentence on the first page, by way of example and not limitation, businesses and uses in hamlet areas shall have signs that blend with rural hamlet and small craft oriented businesses. How do we decide, how is that determined? Is that explained anywhere?
No, signs would be subject to the limitations on sign size and the zoning and also the design guidelines. But I think Guy wanted to give the board some extra teeth in reviewing projects because this use does tend to have somewhat garish sign proposals. So this gives you some ability to tell them to tone it down, basically.
Okay,
I thought the useful addition was the no off-site signage.
oh, that's different, yeah,
Yeah.
no offsite.
So you're not gonna have
That was clear.
the billboard on
It was
the
pretty
on the
clear.
main highway
Didn't
saying,
have a question about that.
you know,
Yeah.
cannabis sales next right, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was clear. Yeah. So that'll be, just gives
Yeah.
whoever's doing this.
So I guess the
site
first
plan.
question is, did everybody have a chance to look at it enough to see whether they thought that it was what we could start the process on, or do we need to, wait till the next meeting to take, so we
No.
have a chance to go look at
I
it
don't feel like-
before we go to the next step?
I don't think so.
I looked at it and it seemed perfectly reasonable
Yeah,
to move on.
That was my thinking too.
okay, Joe.
So the next steps are what, David?
What is it?
The next step would be to schedule a public hearing. I would provide, I will need to send this to the county for 239 review before the final is done, but if you're ready to move forward, I think there's enough time that we could publish notice.
Is this the one that needed 10 days?
Yeah,
Is there any problem with
tight.
doing it in May instead of trying to do it next month? I mean, April? Is there a
No.
problem with doing it the
No.
first meeting in April?
First
No.
meeting in April?
Then that would make it easier to not have to worry about timing.
Right. No, it doesn't have to be for the next meeting. I mean, it could be for the,
How many days till the next meeting? How many days until the next meeting?
today I forgot to bring my calendar.
15?
It's on the order of a couple of weeks. Well, let's see, March looks a lot like February, doesn't it?
At 15. Steve said 15.
I mean, don't we have announced that our second meeting is always 2 weeks and a day after the first?
Yeah,
Pretty, yeah.
right.
So we could do it at our next meeting.
Tight, though.
And if there's no reason to do it.
The
next meeting-
newspaper is slower now.
What was that again?
The newspaper publication deadline has gotten even slower.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
It
Well,
takes a
never
couple of
mind.
days to, you have
First
to,
meeting in May.
yeah, it takes like 2 days before they can publish it.
And he has to check with somebody else about the specifics, so that has to be done first too.
Yeah.
First meeting in, I move that we have a
First
public
meeting
hearing,
in
first meeting in
April.
April.
Which I'm not sure what that date is, but. Anybody know?
Steve probably.
Look in a minute.
It's the 11th.
11? Wow, that late?
No,
Tuesday, no, first Tuesday. I'm sorry. I was looking at the second Tuesday. First
Yeah.
Tuesday, is the 4th.
The 4th?
Four.
Yeah. So, do we need to initiate the secret process by declaring lead agency?
You should, and I was recently informed that for scheduling hearings, we should have a vote.
Oh, for sure.
We are, I moved it.
What, you want to schedule the public hearing?
That's what I moved, that we have the public
4th of
hearing,
February.
first meeting in April,
Okay,
Second.
6 o'clock.
Second that.
4 people. second.
I think I already said it. Okay. So let's deal with that. And, any further discussion of that motion? Janice?
Connors,
Yep.
Hunter,
Yes,
Whitberg,
Yes.
Woodworth,
yes,
Connors.
Daniel?
Sorry.
Yes,
Kenyon.
yeah, got it.
Start over.
I move that we declare ourselves lead agency in environmental review.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Janice?
1 second. Environmental review. Connors.
Yep.
Okay, no, sorry, I was writing that you seconded. Now I'm ready. Connors,
Yep.
Hunter,
yes,
Whitberg,
Yes.
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon.
Yes. Should we, can we do the review of the draft secret parts 1 and 2 and 3 next time?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So that could be done that could be done at our next meeting.
Next meeting, the secret,
Yeah,
well, assessment, okay.
okay. Right. I move that we give ourselves a few more minutes to finish the agenda. Because we ran up to 2 hours,
How many?
whatever it takes, less than 15.
15 minutes? Okay,
So is that a second?
yeah, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
yes,
Whitberg,
Yes.
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon.
yes. All right, so we're done with that one, right?
yes.
Okay. So there's the long deferred creation of a drainage district to deal with the drainage system that they're to deal with stormwater runoff in the Beardsley Lane, CMC, what some other points, variously named subdivision. And we have already gone through the process of getting an engineer review and then a map plan report, which we have in hand, and authorize Guy to work up the legal process for creating a district. And we're now at the point where we have the information back from Guy to form the district. There are these pieces. And I think we're ready to go on it, but what do you think?
I assume this came from a long time ago, since the first issue thing was Susan Beaners, who hasn't been here in years.
Yes.
So I assume this proposal came years ago and we're just getting around to it?
Well, this proposal is much more recent than that. The map plan report was in the end of the year.
No, that's correct, but I assume long-term.
Yeah.
This is planned on long-term.
Yeah,
because this is
what
Susan's
happened
thing.
was that the original arrangement was that the developer was responsible for this until the subdivision was built out. The problem is that the subdivision never was built out, so it's actually still in their lap. But there's no prospect of it being built out, anytime soon, ever. And so we sort of didn't follow up to create a drainage district that would deal with this until more recently. Part of that was that Sue passed away. Before she passed away, she became less and less able, so it kind of went on the back burner and didn't get dealt with. Then I think we started dealing with it before me, and then I tried to pick the ball up after I took office, and it was we had to get the map plan report done, and that happened, and then it's a matter of, it was more than we wanted. I wanted David to try to get done, so we basically called on Guy because there's a lot of legal stuff associated with creating the district and all this process, the stuff that go into doing it. But there was an agreement which is cited in the paperwork that at some point, the developer agreed that the town would create a district in order to manage it going forward. So what we're proposing here is saying is that now is that time. We're going to create this district. We've looked at what's needed in order to bring things up to the construction standards for that district. We have a plan for maintenance. We're creating a district in order to administer it and pay for it, so that the property owners who are party to it will be responsible for paying for doing it. And that's where we are.
Since that commitment wasn't made years ago, then the town has already basically committed to it. This is the details of how to do it, and it seems
That's
like
correct.
the details make perfectly good sense.
Yeah. So if you're okay with proceeding, David, the steps involved in their timing. You need to unmute.
There are many steps, only some of which are included here is the next step. The next step is calling for a public hearing upon the public interest order. So that's what the resolution you have here is about, that it would set a timeline basically for to start the public hearing and for the town board to hear anyone who wants to say anything about this process of setting up the district. In order to start that, you do have to declare lead agency and get started with seeker as well. So I-
Yeah, I noticed the resolution reads like we've already done
Yeah.
the seeker, right?
yes,
So do we need to do it first and then have the public hearing?
yes,
Oh, yeah. Because we make. We
Yeah.
have to erase that, we're,
Right. So,
hurry up, Joel, you got 5 minutes.
yeah, but then.
what I
could-
expected is that you would probably have questions for me, and then we would take the next step at the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, we could take, the next step could be to do the seeker at the next meeting.
Sure.
We could declare ourselves lead agency right now.
Yep.
Sure.
So why don't we do that? I move we declare ourselves lead agency for this creation of this district.
I'll second that.
And discussion. Okay, yeah,
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
Yes,
Weisberg,
Yes,
Woodworth,
Yes,
Canyon.
yes. Okay, so next time we'll do the review. And then perhaps also schedule the public hearing subsequently.
okay, and, okay. Seeker and then,
Yeah,
set public hearing.
does that make sense, David?
Yes, perfect.
is there some reason we couldn't just schedule a public hearing now for the same time as the other one, the first meeting in April?
Well,
We probably, I mean, we don't have, I mean, I feel like the resolution is dependent on the seeker.
right,
And we're doing a
So-
seeker next meeting.
We really can't, I mean, we really,
Okay,
shouldn't
done.
set the public hearing unless we've got the final document.
we need to fill in the blanks and the,
We just did that with the other one.
yeah, we kind of did. That one didn't have the same, fill in the blanks though.
No. Well, I'm thinking of the whereas that talks about the findings of the seeker.
Yeah, right. I mean, just certain visions being done before you schedule the
Right,
hearing.
right.
Okay, so, I don't see any harm in waiting until next time to schedule a public hearing.
Nope.
Right. So, I think that takes care of that for the moment. Are there things you want to specifically mention for the agenda next time?
Are we skipping the next two things that we added?
We had a couple of things.
Yeah, we added court audit and something else.
Yeah,
Right. I forgot about that. You do that.
and
too?
maybe I can talk to Laura or something, we could figure it out between now and then.
Mhm.
Okay, so.
Take it off.
I do have some information.
You do,
Yeah, just to let you know that I've registered us through NYMER for that sexual harassment training. I'm
Oh,
just
good.
waiting to hear back from an email. Last year when we did this, it was somewhere in mid-March. So we're we're visiting this at the same time we usually do every year.
Okay.
I'm waiting to hear back from them, and then I'm gonna get the information, the particulars. Can people do it at their leisure? Sign on. Sometimes they give a webinar, I remember, and like all our highway guys get around the computer and they take it.
a test, they give you a test.
A certificate for everyone as a group, and then see if it's a Zoom in type thing. So I'll keep you guys all informed. I'll send out emails to all the employees and to everybody when it gets resolved as far as when everybody can take advantage of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds good. And I think that using the NYMER form is the way to go.
Yeah.
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 So if we have, Laura could set that up for everybody, then we just get it
I
done.
can.
Okay, that kind of takes care of the sexual harassment training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. The seeker on the cannabis and the seeker on the drainage district.
Yeah.
Setting the public hearing for the drainage district.
There'll be
Anything
more.
else?
There's the capital project planning. which I-
Oh, yeah. Yep,
And workplace violence assessment, team challenge membership.
Yeah, which is to be, if we need to nail that down at some
we haven't
point.
gotten off topic, we would have been all done. by now.
Yeah.
Available.
Keep
And
people-
reluctantly, I'd like to try and say something about IT and cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sounds good. And then there's all the things that will come up that I don't even know about yet.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this.
Okay, think, meeting adjourned.
Take care, everyone.
You too, Laura.
Yeah, I feel better.
Oh, thank you.
Don't catch the next thing.
Yeah, I know, waiting for the next thing to hit, but. that's
Take a
all right.
break.
It's all right. We keep plugging on, so.
Hi, Dave.
Night, everybody.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Everybody take care.